A lot more recruiting to talk about. Could Auburn be closing in on a running back?
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the book, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five, and we are ready to get after a happy Monday. Last night on the live, we talked about Manny Iheanacho, for the whole show, basically. But he was not the only visitor this weekend. Auburn made some waves with a lot of guys, maybe closing in on taking a running back. We'll discuss that in just a second. And then an offensive tackle that I think should honestly maybe be the top priority. And I'll talk about why that's the case. And then is recruiting more of or players, is it more of a wait and see with Auburn, or is it more NIL related? We'll talk about all that here in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to mybookie.ag. Use coupon code BARN, BARN, for a 50% deposit bonus. Give them $100. They're going to give you 50 back free to play with. Hit that sports book, tear it up, just absolutely tear it up. Why not? Because you get free play at no risk. So just give them whatever the deposit is. They're going to bank it back with 50% on top, and then you can go have some fun. It's mybookie.ag. Could Auburn be closing in on a running back? They had a visitor this weekend. A little bit of an under-the-radar type prospect from Mississippi, South Haven, Mississippi, Eric Perry. The first time I read it, obviously, you had to think about Eric Berry. And when I think about Eric Berry, I think about when Auburn was going to Tennessee in 2019, and they had that rap song, Eric Berry, Eric Berry. But this is Eric Perry. He actually plays quarterback in high school, and I know there's a lot of folks that when you hear that, you automatically kind of, roll your eyes a little bit, or like, why not just get a true running back? And for the most part, a lot of times I think I would agree that it's a little bit more risky to take a quarterback, and turn him into a running back than it is to just go get a true running back. And it typically, when a quarterback's rushing yards in high school, when a lot of them are built off of scrambles and things they do when a play breaks down, I always am concerned about how that translates. Because it's just a different running style. Like if you're drop back to pass and, you run out of the tackle box and then you go, that's just a way different running style than I'm going to take the handoff. I'm going to make one cut. I'm going to hit the hole and explode. The good thing about this kid is that a lot of his rushing yards, most of his rushing yards are off design runs. So he's running read options. He's running more of those wildcat style, snap and go, hit the hole and explode. Honestly, a lot of his running yards are very similar to Alvin Henderson's from last year. A lot of his rush attempts, to me, are very similar to Alvin Henderson. Now, there's a little bit more read option mixed into that than it's just snap it and go like Alvin did, but there's a lot of the snap it and go stuff. When I see a kid like this, the first thing you do is automatically you go to his recruiting pages and you're like, okay, how many stars does he have? And he's very I don't know if it's so much so that his I guess notoriety's not out yet. He doesn't have a lot of rankings. He's a 3-star on 247. He does not have a ranking on the other 3 sites. So he's a little bit of an under-the-radar type prospect. Doesn't have a ton of big-time offers, really no big-time offers. Auburn is his biggest offer, and he said basically, hey, Auburn leads. They're number 1. I'd love to go to Auburn. And I think as Auburn gets to know this kid, they love several things about him. Number 1, they love his size. I mean, right now he's 6 foot, right at 200 pounds. If you watch his huddle, if you search Eric Perry huddle, HUDL, and watch his highlights, there's one thing you're going to see immediately, and that's speed. The kid has jets. I mean, whenever he hits a crease and whenever he can get upfield, whenever he gets going upfield, he can absolutely fly. And that's one thing that I think Auburn, honestly, I love Jarquez and I love Tank. I love both of those guys. But like that, Auburn has missed, to me, that guy that you can go 80, 90, break one and go to the house from any part of the field. Just that game-changing speed. I think, albeit on the high school level, I think this kid has a special gear as it relates to speed. So they love speed, and then they love just, hey, I play quarterback in high school, so like obviously got to have a knowledge of the game. And I think knowledge of the game, or understanding offenses, understanding how and why reads are the way they are, and why you read, and when you give and when you keep. I think those things are very important for running backs to be aware of or have knowledge of at the next level. And he obviously would, because he plays quarterback. So he has to know every read. He has to know every decision. When you're in this offense, it's not just turn around, hand the ball off, and go. A lot of it is decision-making. I know that's head-scratching at times, and I know some people, disagree with that style. It's been very successful at times at Auburn. At least up until now, there's been some struggles. But ultimately, when you have all your guys in and it's firing on all cylinders, it's really tough to defend. When there's an answer for every time, for every defensive look, there's an answer for every defensive play call. I think that's important. If you can find a kid in high school that's got a good grasp of that, all those decisions, that whole decision-making process. So let's look at some of his stats. From a rushing perspective, I mean, he averages right at 8 yards a carry. So at high school, if you're averaging, 8 to 10 yards a carry or more, that's what you want to see. He had 880 rushing yards last year, about the same the year prior, 11 touchdowns, and then he throws for another, 1,000 yards. So obviously they're a heavy run team. But if you look, it looks like he was started last year or his junior year as well. I'm sorry, I guess it'd be his sophomore year, because last year was his junior year. He's going into his senior year. He started his sophomore year as well. Very similar stats. He actually had a bigger passing year, threw close to 2,000 yards and rushed for right around the same. And then his freshman year, he played, I think, sparingly. Yeah, played sparingly his freshman year. So kind of took over his sophomore year, played his whole junior year, and he has this senior year as well. This is also the kind of kid that, now that Auburn's offered, other eyes will be on him. Like, okay, Auburn offered this kid. He may be close to committing. Is it worth taking a second look, not only from other colleges, but also from recruiting services? And I have no doubts that he'll camp at places this year. This could be one of those kids that, now that Auburn's offered and he's got more eyes on him, you see a little bit of more publicity around him, and you see his stock maybe start to pick up a little bit. So he's one to watch. Would not be shocked if he pulled the trigger like any day now. So if Auburn they were playing it slow, but Auburn seems to really, really like this kid. Running style-wise, the only thing I'm concerned about is lateral mobility. Left and right, a little bit of the wiggle. The explosion is there. The one cut is there. Is he going to be a guy that can make you miss in space and still be able to jump back up to top speed and score? You don't really get to see a lot of that on his film. It's pretty much, hey, I'm going to make one cut and I'm gone, and you can't touch me. Now, there's a lot to be said for that kind of speed. So that speed can make up for a lot of deficiencies. Not saying he has a ton, but Eric Perry, that's one to watch. Again, I think Auburn could be close. It really, to me, I think the ball's in Auburn's court. If Auburn wants to push and get him, I think they can get him. I don't think they can get him. I know they can get him. If they really want him, he kind of checks a lot of the boxes, and you're not having making a ton of headway with two of your top targets. Maybe time to go ahead and get one in the boat. So Eric Perry is definitely one to watch. There's an offensive tackle, and look, this is just my opinion, okay, on the way offensive for now. And after this season, things could change, and I'll explain all that in just a second. But first, let's give a shout out to rowback.com. Use coupon code BARN20 to take 20% off your order. Polos, hoodies, swim trunks, everything. They've got it. They even have Auburn license apparel. I can't wait to see. I'm sure they're going to have a new drop for the season. They had 2 drops last year. So we should be getting some new Auburn stuff here in just a little bit. But definitely show them some love and save big. It's rowback.com. We'll be back right after this. All right. Another offensive tackle came in this weekend. And honestly, I think these type offensive tackles may need to be of the utmost priority. Okay. And it's not your 5-star top 2 or 3 tackles in the country. Look, I get it. And my opinion may change on this. Okay. But for now, guys that are those like high or mid-range 4-stars, to me, those should be of utmost priority, especially ones that you have a connection to, that you feel like you can get, and maybe, won't say they'll be cheap, but maybe get them at a little bit of a bargain. Claud Mpouma from Mount Carmel in Chicago, Illinois. You know your boy Vontrell's got the connection there. Vontrell King Williams. I know he's an offensive lineman, but that's your Chicago guy. That's your Chicago legend, Vontrell. That's your connection right there. But these guys, to me, he's 6'8", 260. So he's probably going to need at least a year or two to bulk up. To me, these guys are vitally, vitally important to land. I know some people take the conversation last night to say, I thought we wanted high school over college or over portal, and now you're saying you want portal over high school. That is not what I'm saying. Okay. I'm specifically talking about spending the elite of the elite money on a top high school kid at offensive tackle at a position that's typically a developmental position versus if you need, in the scenario that you need a left tackle. So in other words, if I need a left tackle and I have to spend that kind of money, do I go get the best high school offensive tackle out there, or do I go find the best portal offensive tackle out there? So that was basically the conversation last night. It was not high school versus portal. Portal is the way to go versus high school. But when you go back to high school, to me, these guys may be more important than even the 5-stars, because these are the guys that'll probably be patient. These are the guys that are extremely talented, that could be the guy down the road that you don't necessarily have to depend on being the guy right now. And not only do you know that, but they know that. So they won't command that gigantic price tag that some of these offensive tackles have over the last 2 or 3 years. When you get outside of those top 2 or 3 offensive tackles, every class are guys that are just going to be astronomical money-wise. That's why I think these guys could be, these mid-tier 4-star guys could be what I think may be even more important than going the other route. Sure, you're going to have to get more of them because you're probably going to have a little bit higher miss rate. But I think you can afford that. You can afford to miss on a guy like this. If you miss on a guy like Manny Iheanacho, which I don't think he's going to be a miss. I think he's going to be a stud. But if you miss on a guy like that, to me, it puts you in much more of a bind. So I'm sure there's a lot of discussion to be had both ways there. But he came into Auburn this weekend, had a big visit. Again, there's that connection. There's that connection with Vontrell King-Williams. That's going to help big time in this recruitment. I think he likes Auburn. You're going to have to fight off some of the more local, a little bit closer schools, but I think Auburn may be in the mix here. So that's one to definitely watch as it develops, and I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Like think about it. You're probably only going to get one every couple of years of those top of the line guys. Why not try to get, 2 or 3 of these guys every year instead? Never turn down a big name, but it's just such a gamble. And I mean, it's just so much money. It's so much money, and especially with some of the cap regulations that we're going to talk about hopefully tomorrow and how that works. I don't know. I may be overthinking it, but we'll see. Last thing I want to talk about. I'm seeing a lot of this, and I can't decide which way it's going yet, but I think we'll find out very soon. Why does it seem like recruiting is so slow? I understand that it seems slow across the board, but other schools have started to add commitments. And Auburn seems to be just sort of waiting. Seems to just be, I don't know. It just seems to be slower. Like I'll use this as an example. It doesn't seem like we know who the next guy is and when it's coming. Like last year, we had a pretty good idea of when the next commitment was coming. We had a pretty good idea like how it was going to all play out. And like, honestly, right now, just really don't feel that way. Just really don't feel like there's a clear pathway to like who's next, when it's going to happen, where Auburn sits with several guys. And I can't really figure out which reason is the most real reason why. And here's the 2 reasons. Here's again, Texas has started to add a bunch of commitments. Georgia's starting to kind of go on a little bit of a run. All these guys that were down around the same amount of commit numbers as Auburn, they're starting to pick it up. South Carolina's just got a bunch of big predictions. Auburn's right now 14th in the country. They're about middle of the pack in the SEC. This is prime commit season because July becomes July is a dead period. But there's two lines of thought. Is it recruits are waiting to see what happens with Auburn? That seems to be what everybody – I've seen that a lot. It's finally got to the point where recruits are not going to commit. They're going to wait and see what happens this season. Or is it that Auburn is being very, very careful and very, very intentional as in regards to this NIL ruling that just went through over the weekend? Now that the ruling has passed, there's still a long way to go. And again, we're going to talk about that in detail tomorrow. There's still a long way to go, but there's still some things that have to happen. We kind of have an idea of the directions it's going to go, but there still has to be some more things that happen to really solidify it. So is Auburn just being really cautious, and being patient on this? Or is it more that recruits want to go to Auburn? They love Auburn. They love everything about it. Love their visits, love the coaches, love let's just say it, love the money. But this man, let's just pump it a little bit and let's see what happens the first, 5 or 6 games. They start off 2-5, which is, not, or I guess in theory you could, if you don't win any of the big games to start off, you could have a chance to start off 2-6. If they start off 2-5 or 2-6, man, it's going to be tough to want to pull the trigger to go play for that program because clearly something's off and they're not going in the right direction. I don't know which one it is. I still feel like Auburn's being cautious on the NIL side, but I can see, especially for certain positions. Now, defensively, I don't, but like offense, I could see some offensive guys like a Marquez Daniel. I mean, why isn't that kid committed to Auburn right now? Why? Auburn wants him. He lives just down the road. He's a, elite wide receiver, elite size. Why isn't that kid committed to Auburn? Could it be that he's waiting to see? I think we're right there competitive with money. Who knows if Auburn goes off on Baylor and throws for 300 yards and Jackson throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns, and that passing offense looks really good, he could pop right. It could be where he pops right there. It could just be that Auburn's trying to figure out, waiting till they 100% know what they can and can't do money-wise. It could be that as well. I don't know which one it is. I think, though, if things don't start picking up over the next month, if you don't start adding guys, and I'm not talking about I really like Eric Perry. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about more than just guys like Eric Perry. Auburn's in on some pretty big dudes. I just mentioned one. If Auburn doesn't start adding guys like that over the next month, then I may say it's leaning towards wait and see. And I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Let me know in the comments. Do you think it's NIL? Auburn's NIL, the biggest pro that I've always said this, the biggest positive is transparency and being thorough. And the biggest weakness at times is being so transparent and thorough. Could it be NIL? Could it be wait and see? I'd love to know your thoughts. So let me know in the comments. That to me is a really good conversation. I may have that conversation. I got a guest planned for tomorrow, and we're going to talk heavy NIL, and we may talk this as well. I'd love to get his opinion on things. So, guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. You know where to find me. You know we'll be back again soon. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.